Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use that promo code DNVR20 because you get 20% off your entire purchase of that CBD-infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I'm your host, Drew Creasman. I'm the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is beat writer Patrick Lyons, and joining us for this edition of the DFA show is, of course, the voice of the Colorado Rockies on AT&T SportsNet and the host of the Drew Goodman podcast. It's Drew Goodman. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well, guys. I started laughing because we were kibitzing a little bit before, and this happens virtually every week. Patrick will say Drew, and you and I both stand up at attention, and so we always have to remind Patrick that there's, two of us now.
That happens. We get used to it because that's what happens in the press box. Anytime someone says Patrick, I go, it's probably Saunders.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I'll just look out of the corner of my eye and go, yep, no, that was for him. Okay, nobody wants to talk to me.
And then the one time someone really does want to talk to you, you're just ignoring them hard. You're like, it's definitely not for me, right? Love it. So we got a few fun things to do today. We're going to bring back our game Charles Cobb / Chuck Nazty to get some of Drew Goodman's opinions on the new rules and just some that are upcoming, some that have been in the recent past and with regards to Major League Baseball. But we are in a day, spring training has officially started. I don't know. Drew, what are your, when pitchers and catchers start to report, is that for you the official start of spring training of baseball season? Does that get you a certain kind of excited, or is it just this kind of slow build at this point?
I just want to clarify that you're not asking yourself that question. You're asking me that question. Okay. That's a great question. I would say for me, it's a slow build, and it really, again, in normal years, I think I'm going to be down there, but when I go down for the first time, I start getting excited. My favorite time of year, I've said this many times, is March in Scottsdale, and again, normally big crowds at the game, and kids are down there, and my kids have spent so many spring breaks playing ball down there, and it's always been a very special time for me, and it's all about baseball, and the weather's great, and everybody's in a good mood. Players are optimistic, coaches, manager, everybody's optimistic because nobody's lost a game yet. Nobody hopefully has gotten hurt yet. And so I would say it's a slow build, but when I first hit the ground in Scottsdale, then the juices really start flowing. And as the buildup comes, I late in spring training, you can't wait for that first real game. But I love March in the Cactus League, man.
Hope springs eternal, right? Everyone's 0-0. Everyone's tied at for first place, and you can be very optimistic. And it's baseball. We know anything could happen, and first game's right around the corner, February 28th. Rockies even open at home at Coors Field against the Dodgers on April 1st. So this thing is going to ratchet up pretty quickly.
It will move quickly. It always does. I always say this. People invariably will, you run into somebody at the supermarket or on the street, and it'll be, late October, early November, and they say, you must be going through withdrawal symptoms, no baseball. I said, no, I mean, the beauty of all the sports, I love football, I love hoops, but, they're seasonal. And as much as I love baseball and really am immersed in it, whether coaching or watching it, 12 months a year, I do like that natural break. And that's why you get excited, as we do as lovers of the game, when the new season rolls around. And that the fall is great. And it usually seems like it's, October and November and December. But I will tell you, usually when it hits January 1st, it seems like it goes 1,000 miles an hour to the opening pitch of the first game.
This tradition has changed. This is relatively new in the grand history of baseball, this 2 months to get ready situation. How have you seen this evolve? Do you think it's been for the betterment of the game? I mean, we're in the middle of February, for crying out loud, and we're talking about them getting out there. But You see the condition that these guys are in, the quality of baseball. What have you observed over the years about the way spring training has changed and evolved?
Well, yeah, if you want to go back 40, 50 years, and I was watching a game on the MLB network, I can't tell you, what teams were involved, or it was obviously had to be some sort of significant game. And Richie Hebner was playing, and they mentioned, and it's funny, as soon as I see Richie Hebner or wherever that name comes up, I always think of Richie Hebner on the top corner of his baseball card on the back. It said in the offseason, Richie Hebner is a grave digger. And he had an off season as many, and Richie Hebner was good big leaguer. It's not like, he had, you think, well, did he have to have an off season job? Everybody, it seemed like back then, had an off season job because you weren't making the incredible sums of money that the guys are today. And so consequently, guys did whatever they did, and they got to spring training, and the intent of spring training was to get in shape, throw for the first time, hit for the first time, maybe lose 10 pounds that you gained over the winter.
Right.
This is a 12-month proposition in every sport now. So guys, when they rolled into camp today, pitchers and catchers, and I got news for not for you guys, this, but for all the fans out there, 90% of the position players are down there already working out on some field informally. Anyhow, guys are in great shape. The last thing you want to do is show up in mid-February not in good shape. That sends alarm bells off with front offices. Why is that guy not in good shape? They just assume you're going to show up in great shape, and then you kind of fine tune it over the next 6 weeks in preparation for the first game.
As you said, they're professional athletes 12 months out of the year, and their organizations treat them like that. I mean, there isn't even a point go beyond 50, 60 years ago where spring training wasn't in these designated places like Arizona and Florida. I mean, the New York Giants at one point traveled just about an hour south to Lakewood, New Jersey, near Tom's River. Like that was going down south where it was a little bit warmer. Teams would train in Arkansas. The Chicago Cubs at one point trained out on Catalina Island. So I don't know who they were playing exactly, who they could get to take the 1 hour boat ride out from Los Angeles. But the practices in the spring used to be a little all over the place, and it's amazing how the entire baseball world has those two places to descend upon, and it's so unique because no other sport has anything like that. Where if you're just a fan of the sport, you can go there and get as much action as you want, whether it's your team or not. You're going to enjoy your time down in Arizona or Florida.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about Arizona and the Cactus League is the farthest you drive would be like 40 minutes.
Yes.
Maybe it may from Scottsdale up to Surprise. And that's not so in the Grapefruit League. There are trips, in fact, where teams will spend the night because they had to drive like 3 hours and that sort of thing. But from a fan's perspective and a player's perspective, there's nothing better than the Cactus League. You can knock off a bunch of stadiums in a long weekend of a trip down to Scottsdale area or Peoria or wherever you're going. But that's the great thing about the Cactus League.
Yeah, to your point, in Florida, because of the COVID restrictions, they actually made it so that the teams that are on the east coast of Florida, like Mets, St. Louis, they're in Jupiter, Port St. Lucie, that all those teams will just be playing each other. So if you're a Mets fan, you're going to be seeing the same 4 teams over and over again. And they kind of did the same thing on the West Coast too. Whereas, as you said, Cactus League, 2 farthest locations, 40 minutes apart. It's fantastic.
Yeah, did you guys know it? I'm sure you did because you covered the sport as well as anybody, and you're talking about it every single day. That initially there's going to be like 5-inning games and then 7 innings, and even the 9-inning games later on in spring training could be altered by the managers to less than that if they so desire.
Yeah, I think because you got so many less guys in camp now. They're capped out at 75. So whereas for better or worse, if you're staying late to a game in the 8th or 9th inning, you're looking at your scorecard going, who are these guys? And they're AA, low A guys, names you might not know yet. You will eventually. Well, those guys aren't in camp right now. It's really just the big league team and AAA. So yeah, at a certain point, you run out of guys. So you might be seeing some 5, 6, 7-inning games for a long duration of spring training.
Yeah, that will be, that'll be a little bit different. We always have fun with, number 88 coming in. And I say, folks, I'd love to tell you who it is, but he's not on my scorecard, and he's up from minor league camp, and we'll try to get a name for you so mom and dad, can be excited that their kid is out on a big league field.
Right.
And it's special for those guys to have that opportunity to play in a big league spring training game. But this year you'll see less number 88s running around.
Yeah, that was my number when I was a wide receiver, and in soccer, like in little kid soccer, I was 88. That was my number. Just so we're all clear.
88
I could have been that guy.
88's a great number if you're a wide receiver.
That's right.
Demarius Thomas for the Broncos.
Catcher.
Yeah, Drew, Goody. I am a little bit surprised. I'm not, maybe even disappointed that you don't know everyone, all 200 players in the Rockies organization by where their batting stance, their height, their frame. You can just look and be able to tell who 88 is. I'm a little surprised by that.
Yeah, I have to get better. I mean, I have to put in a little bit more time on scouring that roster with Spokane. Have you gotten used to that?
Yes.
Oh, I'm still not actually used to.
Spokane and Fresno.
I'm glad you reminded me. We're early in the year. I hadn't yet said like Modesto or something. So,
yeah.
but I probably would have. And that's like 2 ago at this point. That's Modesto.
That's several iterations back. Yeah.
Tulsa. I could have.
Once again, Drew, you're living in the past, man.
I gotta catch up here. Hey, well, this is the part of the show where I switch over from Strava Craft Coffee to Breckenridge Brew.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, there's something called sharing. I don't know if that was passed along to you.
I know, right? We gotta figure this out. That's Zoom. The Zoom people, they got Zoom Care. We can go to the doctor on Zoom now, but we got to find a way so we can pass a few Brecs over to Drew Goodman. And they got seltzers now. I don't know if you're a seltzer guy. They keep trying to get me to call them Celsius. I don't. Lindsay, if you're listening, I know you listen to every show. I'm sorry, I can't call them Celsius. But the Jokic 15 packs got apple, pear, cherry, peach, berry, and honeydew. I've heard the honeydew is fantastic. I haven't tried any of them yet. I've just got my Hot Peak IPA, but still.
You know what? That's not bad. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right?
I'm saying absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you can always get your Breck, whether it's seltzer or beer, King Soopers, liquor stores, down at the bar. You guys know where to get them. All right. I did want to jump into the game, but there was one question here, and since we were kind of talking about it ahead of time, Liam, and I think this is a great opportunity for you, is just, a lot of people are wondering, why am I watching the Rockies broadcast this year? Other than, of course, to hear the wonderful play-by-play and color commentary job. But seriously, I think a lot of people are wondering, they plan on tuning in. But what can they expect to see on these broadcasts? People are asking us the same question about this podcast or anything else with the Rockies right now. And I know it's something that you've been talking about, I wrote about recently. So just want to give you an opportunity to get into that.
Yeah, I read your piece. I thought you did a great job in encapsulating reasons to watch. And I did a piece on that on my podcast that'll come out tomorrow. And we have a long conversation with Dante Bichette, one of the Blake Street Bombers. That'll be fun, kind of where are they now type of deals. But first and foremost, people are baseball fans, right? You're a baseball lover. And then if you live out here, many of us, obviously there are people who follow other teams, they're displaced from another city or whatever, but you're Rockies fans also. And the way I would answer that is, unlike a team that is going through transition but has a bunch of veteran guys on walking up the 18th fairway, so to speak, the Rockies do have a bunch of young players that are really going to be afforded an opportunity to see if they can emerge and become impactful at the major league level. And a lot of their names. And I would even include, fellas, Ryan McMahon. It's not like Ryan McMahon is this, seasoned 7, 8, 9-year vet. Ryan McMahon still has a lot of upside. I thought last year he was going to be the breakout player. In the 60-game snippet, he was not. He was second on the club in home runs with 9, but the strikeout rate was too high. In fact, for all the guys I'm going to mention, they have one thing in common. Or two things. They have a lot of talent. They really do. And I'm talking about the Hilliards and the Hampsons, the McMahon. I'll leave Rogers out of the conversation just initially for a moment. But those three have an abundance of talent. Really athletic. In the case of Hilliard and Hampson, they can really run. Sneaky pop, as Buddy likes to say about Hampson. Hilliard has top shelf power, unique athlete at 6'5", 240 because of his speed. They all have to cut down on their strikeouts. But those guys are going to play, and they're going to have an opportunity to play a lot and, again, hopefully emerge. Brendan Rodgers, same deal. He's got to stay on the field. He's been hurt. We know he's been a much valued prospect, not just from the Rockies' perspective, but nationally, especially where he was drafted, 3rd pick overall in his draft year. He has to stay on the field, and he's going to have a chance to see what kind of impact he can have. And it's going to be, I'm going to pay particular attention on the offensive side because, that's where he created the buzz when he was in high school, and that's where he created the buzz when he's been on the field in the minor leagues.
Yeah, this team has a lot of upside, and it might not be the timetable that some fans might want, but this very much is the start of something that could be very big. It's much like what we saw in 2014 and 15. Tulowitzki got traded, and the team's in the playoffs. Consecutive seasons, a couple years down the line with that same core of guys that weren't quite yet proven. They were pretty good, but they weren't entirely proven yet. And so all those guys you mentioned, they're trying to build something here right now, and with a starting rotation where three of your big four are going to be back for the next 3 seasons before any of them even become free agents. There's going to be some opportunities there for this team to contend going forward in the near future potentially.
Yeah, and the other thing I was talking about, and I mentioned a fair amount on my podcast, is that as baseball lovers, you appreciate greatness. And within the Rockies division, you can say fortunately or unfortunately, there is great talent, particularly when you look at the Dodgers, defending world champion, and the Padres and the talent they've assembled, great young talent. I mean, Fernando Tatis, you hope he doesn't beat the Rockies, but to be able to watch him 19 times, I enjoyed that as a lover of the game, even though I want to see the Rockies win at the end of the evening. Watching Tatis play, watching Machado play, it's the same thing if you're a football fan and your team's playing Tom Brady or your team's playing Patrick Mahomes. I mean, great is great, and we're entertained by great, and not all great players can play on one team, your team. So I look at that as not a negative. I wish the Rockies had the Dodgers roster or the Rockies had the Padres roster right now. But it's a great challenge when they're going to play them. And from just a theater standpoint, as a baseball fan, I look forward to when we play those clubs.
Yeah, it'll be a good opportunity for those young guys to kind of, to test their mettle, because they're going to be facing those Padres and Dodgers for the next handful of years, because they're loaded. They're ready to go, and they've got a game plan to stick around for the next couple of years. You mentioned Fernando Tatis as being that young shortstop that's a superstar, exciting, electric, all those hyperboles you want to go on about, but there's another team and there's another young player that fits that mold very much the same way, and that's Bo Bichette, shortstop with the Blue Jays. They were a team that, with Troy Tulowitzki, we saw, not too long ago, as a team that was challenging there in the AL East. You think it's somewhat improbable against the Blue Jays against the Yankees and Red Sox, but the Blue Jays had a really good squad. They had to take a step back, and then all their young guys got to go in there. They got their opportunity to have that growth. And so I imagine on tomorrow's podcast, as you talk with Dante Bichette, I'm sure the name Bo may have come up once or twice as well.
Just a few times.
Oh no, did we get a freeze out here?
Yeah, he talked about
Oh, there
we talked about Bo. We reflected back on watching Bo when he was 15 years of age, when Dante was in town. He was the hitting coach for Walt Weiss, and the incredible bat speed he had at that time. And so we did talk quite a bit about Bo and a little bit about Toronto as well.
Yeah, next time we're at the ballpark and there's a child of some coach or player getting in the cage, taking batting practice, it's a good opportunity to file away, take some video, and say, I'm gonna invest in this this time and watch this young guy, because there's pretty good odds this is gonna be a superstar. Might be another decade, but there's a good shot that could very well happen. We've seen it for the Blue Jays, we're seeing it with the Padres, and that's the beautiful thing about baseball, is there's always another generation to come up. You never want to be away from the ballpark. It's baseball. It doesn't matter what goes on with the roster. There's gonna be a lot to watch this season with the Rockies.
We're having some unfortunate buffering issues here, but I think we're hopefully making it better. Having some sound issues. Sorry about that, everyone, but hopefully we'll get it all set and ready to go here. Well, I've got this moment, and I'm interjecting, I may as well let you know that we've got damn good beef as well as damn good beer, and you can get it out at Hassel Cattle Company. They got that Wagyu beef, whether you're getting steaks, burgers, ground beef, ground chuck. Hassel Cattle Company's got some of the best beef you're ever going to taste in your life, and it's good for you because it doesn't have any of that nonsense with all the hormones and stuff that they can inject into beef. Better for the animals, better for your body, and better for your wallet, because you can use promo code DNVR10 to get 10% off, and any order over $200 will get you free shipping. All right. Let's see if we can maybe get this going. Goody, do we have you?
Yeah, I'm here, but it's I hear a lot of static when you guys talk.
It's a lot of static. Maybe if you can try refreshing your browser and coming back in, we'll see if I can always edit this out later, which will be fun. But yeah, you try that. Okay. I think your connection got weird on us, so we'll bring you back in.
Okay. Okay.
While he's doing that, yeah, I'll go ahead and just take care of a couple of other. Who else is on the docket today? DraftKings Sportsbook app. You know about them. You've probably heard about them. You gotta love them. And you know that they've got special deals and promos for you all the time. Whether it's football, baseball, basketball, UFC, you can bet on just about anything at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And right now, they've got specialties going on for, I think it's a basketball thing, right? $1 to $100 right now. New customers can bet on that. Pick any team this week is basketball. We're talking college basketball now, to hit a three-pointer. Any team. If they hit a three-pointer, you bet $1, you win $100. That's a pretty fantastic deal. DraftKings is always hooking you up with stuff like that. It's funny because the read here says this is a slam dunk, but technically it's a three-pointer. I don't mean to be pedantic.
A deep one.
But DraftKings has paid out over $7 billion to its customers since 2012. A lot of fun to get in on the action. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DNVR to get your shot to turn $1 into $100 when you bet on any team to hit a three-pointer in any basketball game this week. That's code DNVR for new customers. A shot for 1 to 100 on any basketball team to hit a three-pointer only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. Winning paid out in 4 $25 free bet. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
It's a long shot payout for a sure shot, near guarantee.
Yeah, right. All right, let's see if our connection with Goody is any better. Little bit. How do you sound?
Do you hear me okay?
Fantastic. That's much
Yeah.
better. Excellent.
Good deal.
Could be the Wi-Fi hamsters. They're back. I don't know if you know that, but
That's right.
those hamsters that keep the Wi-Fi going, you got to replace. It's like batteries, that getting the wheel
Well,
turning around and around. You got to replace them once in a while.
well, technically, in many other areas, I'm a moron. So don't ask me to fix it.
Well, luckily, one of those areas where you're not is in baseball stuff, which is where we get to talk about. And I'm very curious about which of these. So here's how this game works. We call it Charles Cobb / Chuck Nazty. Here's our little graphic from Kale. Two different versions, right? So basically, what we've got here, Charles Cobb is your more traditional, buttoned up take. More how things have been done in the past, how things have always been done. You're a little more
Playing it safe.
Playing it safe. Charles Cobb. Chuck Nazty is when you're ready to try anything. Let's do it. Let's find something new and interesting. Let's grow the great big beard. Let's get exciting and new and different with baseball. And so we can start with a very simple one coming up this next year, something they did last year and talks about going on. Runner on second to start extra innings. Is that something where you're more of a traditionalist, a Charles Cobb? I don't know about all that, or a little Chuck Nazty. Let's do it. Let's fly with that runner on second base to start extras.
I've changed, Drew, on a lot of these rule changes. I used to be a purist, a traditionalist. The DH, if we talk about it, I'm plenty good with the DH. You've heard me say that before.
All right, so universal DH, he's going Chuck Nazty. Okay.
Yeah, but when it comes to the 10th inning and the runner on second, I thought that was hokey, and I kind of like the strategy. Do you try to score multiple runs in the top of the 10th inning? Who is that runner going to be? Oh, it's a slug. It's Yadier Molina. We pull Molina out, and we have to, we put in, the guy with great wheels on the bench. There's strategy there. And anytime there's strategy, it provokes thought. And this is a deep thinker's game, baseball. It provokes thought with the manager and the bench coach. And that is a good thing. So I'm in. I'm Chuck Nazty there.
Wow. Oh, Patrick and I hit at the same time. Yep. Wow. All right. I still need to come over on this one. I'm still Charles Cobb on this thing. I don't know. The randomness of it. It feels weird to win again, especially when the like the first team scores, right? It puts this weird pressure on the home team that I don't know. It's just so bizarre. Maybe I just haven't gotten used to it. It's working on me. I'll see if it
can I make an analogy? Because I know you're hockey Drew now.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Slapshot Creasman.
Yeah, let me make an analogy. In overtime they play 3-on-3 hockey, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's awesome. I mean, it's pond hockey, man. It's 3-on-3. The Avs, with Nathan McKinnon flying up the ice, and there aren't, 5 bodies to skate around. It's just fly past a couple of guys, and you're going to have potentially a great opportunity to score. Well, we're trying to do things in the game to make it more appealing, and not just appealing to yesterday's generation, but appealing to the next generation. And so, the game's tied at 4. We'll go to the 10th inning. Come on back. There's going to be a runner on second. There's instant drama, and we need more drama. We need more action. We need more things that will captivate people to this game that we love. So I have done a 180 on that one.
Yeah, it seems fair and balanced too, because again, both teams have the exact same opportunity. It's like we've seen in college football, with both teams getting that opportunity in the red zone there and getting ready to score, and it just kind of expedites things really well. Now, you can't really game the system unless you're rostering a speedster that you're sitting on your bench for the entirety of the game, which is not a good strategy for the first 9 innings. It's fair. I think it balances it out. And it makes sense in the minor leagues, particularly because those poor people that are ushers and the people working at the the booths and merchandise and all that stuff. Man, for those people to be staying up until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, that's certainly not fair. We're okay with that. I don't know about you entirely, but those late night games, like that one in San Francisco in 2019, that the longer it went on, the crazier it got. But man, yeah, if we can end those a little bit sooner, there's nothing wrong with that. Get the action going, put the runner on second. I love it.
We can always wax nostalgic.
Yeah. After the
Again,
fact.
look in the rearview mirror, and I always think of that 22 inning game in 2009 in San Diego, and yeah, I mean, everybody was kind of punch drunk, and actually some guys literally who were out of the game were drunk. With the Rockies.
I mean, at that point, they can't
were
sub
doing
you back in. I've checked the rule book.
Yeah, they were doing rally shots back then.
Phenomenal.
And it's fun but when you're going through it, listen, I had no problem.
What do you talk about in the 19th inning?
Hey, listen, when you hit your third, take me out to the ball game, and throwing Cracker Jacks 3. I mean, you're pantomiming it, right? So neat, part of baseball lore, part of the mystique of baseball, but we need more action. And so it's tied at 5, and we're going to the 10th inning. Come on back, man. The guy who made the last out is Garrett Hampson. Rocky's got a great speed at second when we come back. I'm good with it.
Let's protect these players. Let's protect them. They don't need to be going out playing these marathon games. Let's protect them. I think this is a good rule.
Yeah. Yep.
And as a fan of speed in the game, and maybe that's because that was one of the very few things I could do in baseball, and it's not that important, but still, that is one of the things. So that was also on the list. Will asking about it. It kind of fits into this category. The 3 true outcomes era of baseball. Is this something that you see as a problem? Or are you a little more Charles Cobb on the man? Really, it's a walk, a home run, or a strikeout, and no one's allowed to steal bases or play small ball anymore? Or are you more Chuck Nazty and hey, let them fly, and if you got a problem with it, figure out another way to win?
No, I'm Charles Cobb here.
Right.
We do have to go back, and I talked to Dante about this. He had some really interesting takes, because he's a power hitter, right? He hit home runs, led the league in home runs in '95 with 40. Drove in 120 plus for a bunch of years. I think it was 5 years of 118 plus in a Rockies uniform. Yet he didn't strike out a ton, and I'm not okay with the continuing rise in strikeouts. I love home runs. We all love home runs. I don't need the ball deadened to keep the ball in the ballpark, but I do need the bat on the ball more frequently. The ball in play we need more of that. So, the fact that he hit it over the wall or he struck out, and there's no. It used to be when I grew up, man. There was a you didn't want to strike out. There was more of a stigma that was a negative attached to striking out that doesn't exist in today's game. And I think the game needs to appreciate ball in play more, 2-strike approach more, personified probably by the former Rocky and now a guy that's been the MVP of the Yankees the last 2 years, and DJ LeMahieu.
Right.
Yeah, we think of action only as runs, but you look back at those 1980s Cardinals teams, Willie McGee, Keith Hernandez, Ozzie Smith. Again, they put the ball in play. You can even see it recently as to 2015, the Kansas City Royals. They didn't have any great home run hitters on that squad. They just put the ball in play, made some things happen, and that's good for baseball. That's the kind of action we need. It doesn't have to even translate to runs. Just let's keep the ball moving, put it in play, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, and to your point, Patrick, for the Rockies, let's be honest. I mean, you lost a potential 40 home run guy in Nolan. And even if we are writing about and talking about some really nice stories in July and August because, wow, Sam Hilliard's arrived and Ryan McNann's got, 20 home runs at the break. They're not and have not been a powerful club last few years, really, even going back to 2018. So they are going to have to, more than just lip service, they are going to have to manufacture more runs, utilize their speed, even if you run yourself out of some innings, because you are not going to sit back like some teams are capable of doing and waiting for, somebody to hit the ball over the wall. Outside of Trevor, they don't have, and I should say Charlie as well. They don't have guys who go, okay, we can pencil this guy in for 25, 30 plus home runs. You don't know.
Right.
We hope that a couple of guys, as we've talked about, become those type of players, but you're going to have to utilize the athleticism that they possess.
Yeah. I in addition to that, I couldn't figure out how to make it fit in the game. So there's also been talks about banning the shift. I'm not sure if banning the shift is the Charles Cobb and keeping the shift is the I don't know, but just where would you consider that as another way of making more action in the game and having there be more defense and singles and these kinds of
well things? Listen, sometimes the player at the plate has to adjust and can't keep pulling the ball into, if you're a left-handed batter, pulling the ball into three guys on the right side of the infield.
Right.
And they have to make again, game-wise adjustments. Scoreboard always dictates what you do. And I think that a manager should have the right to play the 7 position players that can move anywhere they want. I find it really interesting. You guys will help me out with this. I'm trying to remember what club did it. I know Andy Green, when he was with the Padres, was very creative. We've seen teams throw. Tampa did it, right? Kevin Castro, 4 outfielders and 3 infielders. I like that. That's different. I don't mind different.
Is that against Joey Gallo?
3 on the right side or 3 on the left side. Yeah. Figure out a way to beat that shift. We've seen in, talking about extra innings, where it forces a team's hand, where the winning run's at third base, and you go with 2 outfielders and 5 infielders. I like that because it's different.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's one where I'm like, yeah, just let them put and beat the strategy one way or the other. So
it's calling an audible, right? It's looking at the defense and going, oh well, look at all I got to do is lay a bunt down third base, and it doesn't even have to be that good. I can do it. That we've gone away from that in the game is that ability to kind of change on the fly and reassess the situation.
Sure. And I know it's frustrating when you see a bullet up the middle and then, you're watching on television and our director cuts to it and there's a guy standing right there and you go, oh man, because my whole life,
right.
hit the ball through the originator, spin the pitcher's cap, right? But now there's a guy there. Well, that's okay. That's part of the evolution, as I see it, of the game also. And it's not even back, 75 years ago, there were shifts that were placed on, guys that were predominantly pull hitters.
Ted Williams, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next on the Charles Cobb, Chuck Nazty spectrum. Oh, wait, where did I put it? Let's do expanded postseason. And I don't know exactly what that
okay, so which is Cobb?
Yeah.
Is Cobb the purist?
Yeah, so Cobb would be you want fewer teams in the postseason here. Chuck Nazty, let them all. Let's NBA this thing. Half of the teams get in the playoffs.
March Madness. Everyone gets in. It's a tournament. Losers bracket. There's also a losers bracket.
Well, I stealing part of the quote on the Statue of Liberty. I used to say, give me your tired, your poor, your mediocre teams. That's the NBA and the NHL. Everybody gets to go. Everybody gets a ribbon. I've always appreciated how difficult it is to get to the postseason, even for the heavily favored in baseball. And that's why they pour beer, Breckenridge beer, or champagne over one's head when they officially clinch a playoff spot. It is difficult. it is the most difficult thing in team sports to do to get a postseason spot. I'll make an analogy and show the difference in basketball. The Lakers are not going to pour champagne when they clinch a playoff spot later on this spring. They're not.
Right.
They know they're going to the playoffs. They knew they were going to the playoffs at the end of last year. They know every day that they put on shorts and high tops that they're going to the postseason. The Nuggets, quite frankly, should fall into that category also. Now they're slotting where you'll be. But in baseball, even for the great teams on paper, they're going to celebrate that achievement. Now, I've pontificated on that for a moment. I'm going to probably surprise you because I'm okay. In fact, I applaud the expansion of the Major League postseason, not perhaps to 8 as we saw in the truncated season of 2020, but what the owners would like to see, and that is 7, an additional 2 teams in each league. It keeps fan engagement. It keeps teams involved that maybe would have been dismissed by July 1st. And I think that is a good thing. And I also don't agree that, some of the Players Association contention is that it's going to hurt free agency. Whether you are, an 80-win team, you think, and are trying to do something to get to 84, 85 and get that 7th spot, or whether you're an 88-win team and you're trying to get to 95 to be at the top of the division, perhaps, I still think you're going to see activity with free agents saying this guy can help put us over the top. And so I think that, at least in my mind, would debunk the argument that it's going to in some way hurt free agency in the off season. I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for fans. And I think it keeps teams in it. And we all know that baseball, if you get hot in the postseason, you can make noise. And that's why we've had wild card teams win the World Series. I always think of the Marlins. They've never won a division, but they have 2 banners down in South Beach.
That's right.
Yeah, and if the format is exactly what we think it would be with 7 teams, it would essentially be the team with the best record in each league just gets a bye, doesn't have to play that like wild card round. So that even encourages the best teams to continue to be really talented and not just rest their guys and say, hey, you know what, we've got this division locked up. It's no, we want to keep playing to get that first seed, to get the bye. So it really puts the impetus on all teams at that point to play a full 162 schedule.
Yeah, and then you can set up your rotation if you are the top seed in the National League or the American League, and make sure if somebody's got aches and pains, or if somebody was gimpy at the conclusion of the season, you can use that handful of days off to get healthy.
All right, next, Charles Cobb / Chuck Nazty we've got to decide on here. How about, and I feel like this doesn't get talked about as much as it used to when they first came up, but imbalanced interleague schedules, can be the luck of the draw. You can look back, and I think about this probably more than someone should, but to 2018 and the fact that the Rockies had the Houston Astros as opposed to, say, the Kansas City Royals on, they had the toughest interleague schedule that year, and the Dodgers had one of the easier ones, and as we all know, the 2 teams ended up tied. We don't talk about strength of schedule in baseball very often, but it's kind of a thing now. So should it be? Do we want a Charles Cobb go back to a world where we don't have these imbalanced schedules? Or Chuck Nazty, man, let's let it fly. Everyone play everyone. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I probably would say you have to go Chuck Nazty here, in that some teams have natural rivals. The Rockies do not, and so they've been alternating, playing Texas one year and Houston the next year. If it was a Texas year, at least lately, that would have been a good thing. If it's Houston, not such a good thing because they've had an elite roster naturally. But I don't really know a way around that. It's kind of the luck of the draw. And you could also always look back and say, well, how did you play against sub-500 teams? How did you do against the bottom feeders that particular year? Did you make sure that you had a a very high win percentage, or were you more mediocre against those? Because you could point to that and say, hey, we needed to play better against the teams that we were better than, clearly. You play 162. I like to fall back on, my favorite coach growing up as a New York Giant fan, Bill Parcells. You are what the record says you are. And certainly when you play the number of games that they do in Major League Baseball, at the end of the day, you can say, oh, we had this injury, we had this, injuries are part of sport, misfortune, scheduling, whatever. You are what the record says you are. So, if you win 88 games, you win 88 games. If you win 78, that's who you are. You got to own it.
Yeah, schedules can be imbalanced in that way where it's just the luck of the draw. But as you said, over a full season, the cream rises to the top, and that's what's fun about baseball too. Is you can have those debates and go, yeah, you know what, the Rockies, they had a harder strength of schedule in 2018, whereas the Dodgers didn't. It's a shame that it did come down to 163 and the Rockies lost that, but it's just part of the fun of baseball and having that debate, because the alternative is creating some kind of schedule that, man, is incredibly rigid, and I don't necessarily know what that would look like. You could have back-to-back off days if teams are forced to stay up in Seattle for 3 days. This year Seattle and the Rockies have each other home and away, just 2 games at each other's ballpark, so it could get really complicated, and I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why we might not ever see a perfectly balanced schedule in that way. But it certainly would make life a lot easier for debating, but I think that's what we like to do.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right. We got a couple more here that I want to get to, though I've misplaced my list. Here we go. Okay, I'm ready to get my heart broken on this one and not necessarily prepared for a full debate. But, and I think I know where you stand on this, though. The last I heard you guys talk about it on air, I think it was a couple of years ago. So, electronic strike zones. Charles Cobb or Chuck Nazty?
What's Cobb?
That's going to be against the electronic zones. Keep it how it is, right? The Wi-Fi hamsters may have gotten you just in time to make sure we don't do this. There we go. He's going straight. He's going. Get out of here with that.
Okay, I'm gonna hold that. I'm gonna read.
He's gonna reboot and come back in just for this.
It sounded like he said Charles Ulysses Cobb.
Charles Ulysses.
He was going all in.
He added I was gonna say he added a whole extra name to the whole thing. This is gonna be great.
I prefer Aloysius, Charles Aloysius Cobb. Although Cobb already is his middle name.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead first and say that I'm flexible. Whatever ends up happening, I'm going to be fine with it. It's baseball. Baseball will rebound. I trust the decision makers. Sure, we all have our issues with Rob Manfred, of course, but I think there's plenty of intelligent people that are looking at this, and we know the pros and the cons, and you could say the same about either way, whether you want to have an electronic strike zone or not. So for me, if I had my druthers, I would not have the electronic strike zone. I'm okay with those little nuanced calls that should have gone one way versus another. I don't think it to be that detrimental in the grand scheme of things. We know it could potentially have had something to do with a win here and a loss there on an individual game-by-game basis. But even still, a call goes one way, you don't know what's going to happen, in the next on the next pitch, right?
You're done. I don't have to show you the same respect as I do our guest. All right.
I'm old school. Charles Cobb.
Terrible.
Keep it as is.
All right. Let us have it, Goody. I'll do my best.
Okay. Well, you guys heard me say Charles Ulysses Cobb in capital letters.
You did say that.
Listen, you know that we all, just like all announcers, you go, oh, where's that pitch? Where was that? You'll hear me say that this year, and don't give me a hard time. And also, there is a constant referendum on the strike zone because it's one of the sold items in games. The strike zone is a big sold item, and we see it shave the corner, and it's called a ball, and we're like, that's in the Subaru strike zone, right? Well, even though that can be a nuisance, these guys are really good, and they get it right better than 92% of the time. Their strike zone, and for me, one of the great subtle parts of baseball is the art of catching, the art of stealing pitches, the art of stealing a low strike. And I don't want to see that lost. Pitchers are very particular with who they throw to, and it's an important element of the game. And there is an art to catching. And I don't want to see that lost with an electronic strike zone, because just like replay in football, we've all watched video replays, guys, in football, and you go, how did they come to that conclusion? We just watched the video of it. That was a catch. That was a fumble. That wasn't a fumble. That wasn't a catch. And so there's still debate after video replay. Well, just because we go to electronic doesn't mean perfect. And so you'll see some strike, and you go, wait a second. He's 6'4". There's no way that was a strike. It was too low. Or that was too high on Jose Altuve. You'll still be debating it. So I know we're headed that direction, but I don't like it. I'm Charles Ulysses Cobb, and I have no idea if Ulysses is any part of his name. In fact, I'm probably pretty sure it's not.
You're gonna say, because then he'd have the two middle names. You gotta love that.
Well, hey, listen, one of my boys, we has 4 names. Got 2 middle names.
There you go.
He's in good company. Larry Walker. Larry, Kenneth, Robert Walker. 2 middle names.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Patrick had just done a thing on. There's one other. Who was the other?
Mordecai Centennial something Brown. 3 Finger Brown's got 2 middle names.
Mordecai 3 Fingers Brown. 3 Fingers.
Well, yeah. Yeah. He legally changed it to 2. No, on his birth certificate, he had 2 different ones, and then legally changed it to 3 Finger. Yeah.
I've made my arguments about the electronic strike zone though many times, so I'll let what you all had to say on that carry the day for now. So I'm a big proponent. We'll work on that. We'll work on that over there. See, you said you've done Patrick, a 180 on some of these others, so.
All right, he's deferring to us, Patrick. We have him outnumbered.
We do. Right. We do. We're old school. I mean, yeah, but he's going to feel good because he's probably going to win out anyway. And in the long run, as you said, it's probably coming. And that's all right. He can have that.
That's right.
We know who's right.
Where are these? Okay, a couple other easy ones, I think. We'll finish out on stuff that's maybe a little bit less controversial then. We'll give ourselves a little cool down here. Alternate jerseys. There's so many alternate jerseys these days. We got Players Weekends and Mother's Day, Father's Day. They're always wearing some kind of alternate jerseys. Back in the day, you had your home whites and your road grays, man. So, Charles Cobb, stick with the stuff, or are you a fan of all the different jerseys these guys are rolling out in?
I don't, if the jersey's pretty unique, I'm fine with it. I'm going to go Chuck Nazty here. I don't get all worked up that there's alternative jerseys, and I think it's progress with the game that they have on that weekend where you can, have a nickname on the back. I loved. I don't know why this popped in my mind, fellas, but I remember. Do you remember when Trevor Story? It was. It was. I think it was his rookie year, or maybe even his second year when it started, and his nickname was Joe because Mark, help me out. Mark Reynolds had nickname. He didn't remember. Didn't remember his name. He wasn't anybody yet. And it was part of his way of kind of putting the rookie in his place. He like Trevor, Joe, whatever your name is, right? So on the back of his jersey was Joe. Listen, that's good, man. I'm all right. They play 162 games. I don't need to see 81 in white and 81 in gray. If Tanner and the Padres do a good job on Sunday, they wear the camo on Sunday at home at Petco. I'm good with that. Chuck Nazty.
Love it.
I like it. And here you go again, going old school with the strike zone, but going new school Chuck Nasty with the jerseys. Yeah, I'm in favor of all that. Get crazy. Why not? Do it all. It's fun.
Yeah.
All right. Last one. So,
I don't want to see
somebody
them in
saying,
shorts, though. We're not going Bill Beck.
No 70s, early 80s era Chicago White Sox. Especially now, you don't want that influx of red that the White Sox had for a while, where they had some red in there, and they even had some baby blue as well. Now's not a good time to have an alternate jersey for the Rockies that has a little bit of red in it. No thanks.
no.
Yeah.
This comment is great. Getting on me for being for the electronic strike zone, saying I was probably an outfielder. I actually was a catcher, by the way. That is, your point is that my biggest sticking point about the electronic strike zone, which is we'll lose catcher framing, which I do love. So once I got too tall to catch anymore, they made me go in the outfield. So maybe this is some kind of like repressed like problem of like once I was over 6 feet tall, they were like, you can't catch anymore, and it ruined my baseball career. And so I don't know.
I think it'll change the job of the catcher, where you're gonna have to block more balls now, because there are gonna be some pitchers with some wicked curveballs that they know can just get right in that front edge of home plate. It could even bounce on top of home plate. You're gonna have a hard time defending it, but you know it's gonna be a strike. So I think there'll still be the shift. There'll still be that component of being a catcher and being able to, do a job back there and protect the ball and keep it in front of you.
Well, I went to college as a catcher, and my middle son is a college catcher, so I am really big on protecting that position from. It's the most important defensive position in baseball.
And one of maybe the toughest position to play in all of professional sports. I don't think people realize all the things that go into that. Mentally, I think physically people understand it, but how mentally grinding and challenging it is to be a catcher. So I'm with you. I'm very
Other than
pro-catcher.
punter, I would agree with you. I would agree with you on that.
Other than punter. Love it. All right. Yeah, I think that's my list for the day. That was a lot of fun. Really appreciate you sharing your insights on some of these new rules and changes. Mostly Chuck Nasty. I'm sure there are some people out there who would think you're more of a baseball traditionalist, but and maybe you would even describe yourself that way. Well, with these things going on, man, you're out here going, let's do it. Let's grow the game. Let's move it forward. I think that's awesome.
You know what, Drew? If we played this game 5 years ago, you probably would have said Charles Cobb just entered the room. But I have evolved.
There you go. You gotta baseball's a game of adjustments. you adjust over the years, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we thank you all so much for listening into this episode, following along. Make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel so you can join this conversation when we're going live on Wednesdays at 4:05 p.m. All the other days we're going live on Facebook and Periscope. We'll be live on YouTube again tomorrow with a little bit of minor league mayhem, so make sure you're checking in on all of that. Make sure you're listening to the Drew Goodman podcast. As he just mentioned, he had a conversation with Dante Bichette. That'll be dropping on Thursday morning. You don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss any conversation with Dante Bichette, but every episode of that podcast bringing you fun guests, great baseball chat. You got to make sure you're subscribed to that. And you're tuning in for all this stuff as baseball things start to happen. So we appreciate you all out there. Make sure you're following on social media at Drew Creasman, at Patrick Lyons, at DNVR_Rockies, and of course at Drew Goodman 42. You subscribe to the DNVR.com so you get all of that written content plus discounts on hats, shirts, masks, a bigger beer when you come down to the DNVR bar. And you get to hang out with us in the Discord chat room. Ask us questions all the time. Make sure that we can get your questions to Drew Goodman next time on the podcast. So Again, thank you all for being absolutely awesome out there. I promise you, we will continue to be absolutely Patrick Lyons, Drew Creasman, and Drew Goodman in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.
Thanks, fellas.